Na 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 na. Na 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 na. It's getting awkward. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. This album. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. This intro is getting kind of awkward as well too. Oh my god, it's so hard to make intros, but I try my best. So, what's up, everyone? It's your boy Matt Diazable coming at you with a new music review. Always, thank you for coming on by. Thank you for discovering me. I really appreciate it, and trying my best to do good reviews. Yeah, so today I'm checking out the newest album from the big man himself, Will Smith, called Based on a True Story. Now, I feel like Will Smith does not need an intro, but just like every artist I review, they deserve an intro for sure. And Will Smith is a world renowned actor, rapper, and just global figure in entertainment and has been around since about 1980s ish. I can't remember, but he's been doing it for a long time, starting off with his rap career with the, Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff, doing that collab throughout the 80s and everything, and then landing that big TV spot called the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he really catapulted himself into, I guess you could say, cultural zeitgeist, and then moving on to movies where he just dominated for years and years and everything. And as of the past couple of years, a lot of people know, his whole legacy has been a little bit on the decline a little bit with, certain events at certain award shows and certain interviews with someone's wife and everything. I don't want to go too much into it, but it seems like he is going through a lot of things and everyone's watching it right now, and it seems like everyone's a little not on board with the Will Smith train anymore. And I could see like this album is probably a good reason why people aren't too thrilled about Will Smith. So let's get into it. And this latest album from Will Smith, based on a true story, is less of a musical comeback and more of like an identity crisis set to beats. It's a strange, uneven, and often awkward blend of vulnerability, legacy reckoning, and attempts to stay relevant in a world that's clearly moved past his style of rap. The album is trying to do so many things at once here, be very introspective, inspirational, experimental, and just hard hitting as well. But it rarely succeeds to really be any of these things. And I gotta say, the biggest glaring thing about this project is Will introduces a reoccurring character called the Reverend throughout multiple skits. Well, I guess they're like sermon-like style skips. You can skip them. Skits. He's meant to be a, like, I guess, a narrative listening guide for the listener through themes of like struggle, faith, and redemption. Unfortunately, these little skits that he's doing here are probably the weakest moments and elements on this album. And it's really funny because he's got a really long career as an actor, but his voice acting here feels really forced and awkward, stripping any of these moments of any real gravity. Like you would think, like, is this his first time like acting or doing sketch comedy? So instead of giving the album a nice cohesion with these skits, it's more of like a disruptive flow to the overall identity of this album, and it just causes a lot of mass confusion. Another glaring issue on this record is that there seems to be a very noticeable disconnect between Will and the production across many tracks. Like on songs You Looking at Me and Rave in the Wasteland, he often feels really like not in sync with the beat. He just sounds really off. Either he's like lagging behind in terms of like keeping up with the beat, or he's delivering his verses so like rigidly. It seems like he's counting like bars in his head. He's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then actually following the rhythm. And this like kind of flow that he's doing here just makes it feel like he's very dated and has a very mechanical quality to it that's really hard to overlook. You can't look past it, especially when compared to all the fluid and more contemporary guest verses that he has on here. Weirdly enough, the best moments on this album is when, Will takes a step back and like he lets his collaborators, the features really come through and shine. Tracks like Bulletproof, Hard Times, and Making It Look Easy really show a version of Will that's more relaxed, more natural, and just, crucially more believable. These particular songs are not only like production wise stronger, they are also sonically and, emotionally contrasting the other songs on here that don't feature any artists. these are like very, like, I would say more compelling songs because of all the features. And I really got to say, on these tracks, Will doesn't really, overreach or over explain. He really finds his pocket of genuine relatability on these tracks. But way too often on this album, it seems like it kind of buckles under the pressure of its own ambitions. Songs like Beautiful Scars and, First Love try to position Will in a very introspective and emotional way. But the execution kind of veers off into almost like tone deaf territory, especially like with how, his public scrutiny in the past years with his personal life just make the song seem really out of touch and just kind of bad. His verses, are trying to be very like redemption like, but often feel more, I guess you could say, self conscious. Like he's trying to be more concerned about his public persona than actually being authentic with his expression. And the few moments of experimentation on this album kind of like show glimpses of potential. The Joyner Lucas assisted song Tantrum kind of taps into a more darker, more aggressive energy here. And it kind of works, especially when, I guess, Joyner, I just messed up his name, I just said it. He sounds better on the mic than Will on this track. So there's some nice qualities to it. Then you have the song Work of Art, where it features Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, and the rapper artist Russ. And it blends a very moody production with layered vocal effects that really creates a more, I guess you could say, modern sonic palette. Yet, even here, Will just seems like a guest on his own track, sometimes rising to the occasion. Other times, he drags things down by having very repetitive bars and just, mismatch energy. At the end of the day, Based on a True Story feels like an album that is made by someone who's really trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into the world right now, while clinging really hard to who and what they were before. So it's a very mismatched energy with this record. I would say it's definitely filled with a lot of good intentions, but it's just, like dragged down by awkward execution and a lack of self-awareness. In another parallel universe, I'm sure there's a version of this album that's leaner, more focused, and less concerned with image repair, then maybe it could have worked. But as it stands, this is a very shaky reintroduction for Will Smith that's more confusing than, convincing and filled with conviction. So I would say this latest album from Will Smith, based on a true story, I would have to give it a light, guess okay, 4 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album. Give me some suggestions. What do you think about Will Smith and his whole career right now and everything? Yeah, like always, I will see you in the pit. Been thinking good things about you.